Welcome wherever you are tonight, beneath a blanket of stars, beside a quiet lamp, or nestled in the hush of your room. Take a slow, full breath and allow yourself to drift. Tonight, we journey not just through time, but into silence, into slowness, into the deep rhythm of the desert. Imagine a place where the world is made of light and sand, where the earth stretches forever, and the sky, a vault of silver and dusk, leans close to listen. This is the Sahara, the great golden hush of the world, a sea of wind and dust that holds the memory of footsteps centuries old. And in this place, beneath sun and moon, through heat and haze, salt caravans once moved, slow as thought. Men and camels walked for weeks, through dunes that shimmered, guided by stars that never slept. Tonight, I invite you to come along, not as an explorer, not as a hero, but as a whisper beside their shadows, to feel what it meant to walk with salt upon your back, to endure, to listen, to dream with your eyes open. We'll follow the slow creak of saddle leather, hear the soft pad of hooves on sun-warmed sand, and breathe with those who knew thirst as a companion. The salt merchants, the desert navigators, the ones who carried white gold across the spine of the earth. And as you listen, as you drift deeper, if this kind of soft, meditative history speaks to your soul, if it stirs something ancient in you, then I gently invite you to support this channel. If you genuinely like this content, hit that like button and subscribe. And hey, let me know in the comments, where are you listening from tonight? What drew you to this journey across the sand? It's a quiet joy to see how far and wide our circle stretches, from distant coastlines to mountaintops, from city windows to sleepy countryside rooms. Now, the wind is rising. The camels are stirring. Let us begin the journey you would not last a day upon. Not in challenge, but in reverence. Let go. Close your eyes and follow the salt road into the silence of the Sahara. The morning does not arrive in the Sahara like it does in cities or on cool, green coasts. It does not roar in with birdsong or the rumble of daily life beginning. Instead, it arrives as if it has always been there, waiting patiently in the folds of the dunes, waking not by command, but by consent. Long before the sun stretches its golden limbs across the sky, the desert breathes, a cool breath, wide and still, sweeping through the thin reeds beside the oasis, curling into the corners of sleeping tents, gently tugging at the edges of hand-woven cloth. You stir, wrapped in thin layers of cotton, dyed the soft beige of sand and time. The stars are still present overhead, faint, as though watching from a greater distance now, their light retreating with reverence as the horizon softens from black to indigo. There is no urgency in their leaving, just as there is no haste in what begins here. The caravan is already beginning to hum, not with noise, but with motion. Shadows move between tents, their steps quiet as thought, their gestures practiced and fluid. In one corner of the camp, a pot of tea simmers over coals, fragrant steam rising like incense. It smells of mint and warmth and metal. You draw near instinctively, hands cupped around a small ceramic vessel, its chipped rim worn smooth by countless dawns. The tea is hot, earthy, slightly bitter. It wakes not your body, but your awareness. You are among the salt men, the Azalai, the keepers of ancient roads that exist not on maps, but in memory. Routes drawn in the mind and passed down like prayers. Men who speak little, but know much, who measure distance not in miles, but in days, in waterskins, in camel steps. These men are not adorned in armor, nor draped in jewels. Their strength lies in the way they move, with purpose, the way they wait, with patience, the way they endure, with grace. Their faces are partially veiled by indigo turbans, each wrap protecting skin from the sun, but also concealing expressions that need no words. Their eyes alone tell stories. Dark, deep, quiet as wells. The camels stand nearby, long-limbed and calm. Some chew slowly, mouths swaying side to side, like they've chewed the same memory 1,000 times. Their bodies are etched with soft lines, ribs, haunches, shadows that move as the sky lightens. They carry no resentment, only salt. Slabs of it, white-gray, rough-edged, packed in thick canvas, 3 to a camel, sometimes 4. Each load balanced perfectly with ropes braided like vines. The salt is from the mines of Tagaza, dug by hands, scarred by stone, stacked and dried in blistering heat, then wrapped and marked for trade. This is not salt for flavoring your stew. This is salt that pays for books, for cloth, for copper. Salt that is bartered for knowledge, for food, for shelter. It is the blood of trade, the mineral of survival. And every block is precious. You help secure a final bundle, your hands unfamiliar with the knots. Your movements are unsure. A Tuareg elder gently corrects your grip, not with words, but by placing his hands over yours, guiding the motion slowly. The rope pulls tight. The camel shifts its weight and grunts softly in reply. Somewhere, a flute plays, a lone reed instrument, sending out a song that floats like mist. It does not mark time. It ignores it. Its notes bend in the breeze, carried by the early air like drifting smoke. The first glow of light kisses the tops of the tallest dunes. Not a blaze, but a sigh. A warmth that stretches, slowly unfolding the edge of the world. You feel it on your cheeks. You see it reflected in the silver buckles of saddles, in the deep brown of camel eyes, in the soft gold of sand that begins to gleam. Someone offers you a palm full of dried dates and nuts. You eat slowly, chewing in rhythm with the land around you. It feels ceremonial. It feels like you are being welcomed, not with banners or trumpets, but with the quiet dignity of belonging to a rhythm older than memory. Then the call comes, a single word, spoken low and steady. Yalla. Let's go. There is no rush, only motion. The first camel steps forward, then another, then a line like a thread being pulled through the fabric of the desert. You take your place among them, heart thudding gently, not with fear, but with awe. And so, the sands awaken beneath your feet. The journey begins, not with speed, but with surrender. The caravan moves like a thought, long held, a prayer whispered not once, but many times. Each footfall a verse, each breath a quiet hymn. And the desert, the great listening desert, take notice. The silence of the desert is unlike any other. It is not the absence of noise, but the presence of stillness. It is thick, almost touchable, stretching from dune to dune like a great, invisible cloth. It wraps itself around every step, every breath, every thought. In that quiet, you begin to hear things you hadn't noticed before. The creak of wood beneath a slab of salt, the rustle of wind through a lone acacia shrub, the faint gurgle of a camel swallowing water from deep within its throat. Every sound matters here. Every sound is a visitor. Welcomed, noticed, then released. As the sun climbs once more, you begin to feel the weight of the salt, not only on the camels' backs, but in the very air around you. The heat becomes thicker, not sharp, but heavy, like warm glass pressing down. You fall into rhythm again. The walk, the breath, the silence, and the salt. Always the salt. 3 blocks per camel, stacked like pages in a sacred book, wrapped and bound with care. Not one grain wasted, not one slab was treated with indifference. The men who walk beside these blocks do so with quiet pride. Not pride in possession, but in duty. This is not a task of wealth, but of balance, of bringing what is essential from one world into another. Salt here is not just for taste. It is medicine. It is preservation. It is currency. And in some communities, it is offered in greeting, a gesture of trust. You learn of the mines from which this salt came. Taghaza, a place where the land bleeds white, where the ground is carved, not with plows, but with blades and bones, where men lower themselves into sunlit pits, cutting the earth in long, slow breaths, their faces veiled not for modesty, but for survival. The salt they extract has seen no rain, only sky, no sea in 1,000 years, only wind. And when it is ready, when it has dried and hardened and been blessed by light, it is lifted, carried out of the pit on the shoulders of men whose names will never be written in books, but whose strength holds up entire markets. That salt begins its pilgrimage then. It joins the caravan like a monk joining a temple. It asks for no shelter, no special treatment. It simply endures. And so it rides. Day after day, bound to camel's back, tasting only wind and dust and silence. You pass a block that has cracked along one edge. It reveals tiny crystals within, sharp, translucent, glimmering. A secret geode carried not in stone, but in service. You wonder how many hands will touch this salt before it disappears. Into stew pots, into trade, into skin, into ritual. You learn in whispers that some of it will be ground and mixed with herbs. Some will be used to clean wounds. Some to trade for manuscripts in Timbuktu. Pages inked with verses that span centuries. You begin to see it not just as a mineral, but as a bridge, a white bridge across the golden void. One elder tells you, as you walk, that the salt contains echoes. If you listen closely, he says, pressing a cracked finger to the slab, you can hear the ocean that lived here once, before the sand, before the sun became a god. You believe him, not because of proof, but because of the way his eyes do not waver, the way his voice does not try to convince you, the way the salt sits beside him, quiet and listening. As the afternoon sun reaches its apex, you see a man pour a few grains of salt into his hand, press it to his tongue, then scatter it to the ground. You ask him why. He shrugs and says, "To remember that even the earth has flavor, and that we walk not on dead ground, but on something that once moved." The act stays with you. The salt, not hoarded, not worshipped, but shared. That evening, the wind begins to rise sooner than expected. It brings a thin veil of sand across the camp. Not fierce, but insistent. Tents are secured. Camels crouch lower. And the salt is covered. Each block draped in cloth to protect it from the shifting sky. And in that act, the careful covering of salt, you see something profound, as if tucking in a sleeping child, as if protecting not a resource, but a memory. You understand now. Salt is the one thing here that does not wither. It does not age. It does not disappear unless given away. And so it becomes the perfect companion for a desert that takes everything and a people who give everything. That night, you lie on your mat, sand still clinging to your ankles, lips roughened by wind. You hold a small chip of salt in your palm, a sliver that broke off in your bag. You run your fingers over its jagged edge, cool, clean, enduring. And as your eyelids drift lower, you whisper, not a prayer, but a thank you to the land, to the silence, to the salt. And the desert, in its own quiet way, whispers back. By the fourth or fifth day, it no longer matters which. Time itself becomes as fluid as the horizon. Your body moves, but your mind hovers. Not lost, but loosened. The desert is doing its work, unwinding the tight knots of thought, sanding the edges of ego, replacing your calendar with wind, replacing your worries with space. There is something sacred in the way the air begins to bend. The heat rises, not in fire, but in waves. Invisible currents that soften shapes and stretch sound. And within them, things appear. First, it's a glimmer, a ripple of light across the sand, like sunlight through water. Then a shimmer, a pale reflection that dances just at the edge of focus. You stare, and it deepens. A pool, perhaps. A grove of green. A woman kneeling to collect water. Children laughing nearby. You step forward, and it dissolves. Not suddenly, but gracefully, as if it was never meant to stay. There is no disappointment, only a strange peace, as if the desert has whispered, "You are not here to arrive. You are here to see." No one mocks your moment. No one questions what you saw, because they too have seen many times. Mirages are not tricks here. They are companions. They walk beside you, teaching your eyes not to grasp, but to gaze. Even the elders speak of them with softness. One tells a story as you rest beneath the thin shade of a rock outcrop. His voice, as dry as the wind, When I was a boy, he says, I saw a line of horses, 7, all white, tied to a palm tree that never touched the ground. I ran toward it, fell to my knees, and wept. He pauses, but I wept not because it was gone, but because it had come. Another man nods. There is wisdom in what disappears, he adds. And you understand now. The mirage is not a lie. It is a language, a breath spoken by the land, a gesture. You begin to collect them, not in journals, but in your being, a ruined wall far in the distance. Its shape, almost architectural, a flicker of blue where no sky should be, a flash of silver, like a blade in the sand, a woman's song, perhaps real, perhaps wind. Each one arrives and fades, but leaves a trace the desert records without ink. You begin to recall things of your own, memories from childhood, unfinished thoughts, faces from years ago. They rise as if summoned by the heat, not sharply, but gently, like old friends. The caravan does not speak of the past, but it carries it in the fold of every scarf, in the shape of every step. The men around you hum, sing, whisper verses beneath their breath. You realize now, many walk not for trade, but for remembrance. Salt may be the cargo, but memory is the purpose. At dusk, a strange silence falls, different from the usual hush, heavier, thicker. You crest a dune and see them. The footprints, not your own, not from today. Dozens, hundreds, winding in soft patterns, unbroken. You blink. The wind moves. They vanish. Were they ever there? Or were they the memory of another caravan? One from centuries past. One that left only this faint ghost of motion. You find yourself hoping it was real because something in your chest felt seen. That night, as the fire crackles low and the camels grunt in their sleep, you sit beside a man sharpening a knife. He says nothing, just runs the stone over the blade, back and forth, rhythmic. After a while, he says, "My grandfather saw a city once, far off, with walls made of glass and sand that sang underfoot. You don't ask if it was a mirage. You only nod, because you saw it too. Maybe not today, maybe not yet. But somewhere in the shimmer between breath and dream, you lie down, blanket pulled over your shoulder, salt dust still clinging to your fingers. Above, the stars burn clean and high. Below, the dunes shift slightly in their sleep, and somewhere in the dark, A memory walks toward you, not to haunt, but to hold. You wake before the sun, eyes stinging with sand, throat dry as woven bark. Sleep came lightly last night, interrupted not by noise, but by the pulse of the journey, pressing in your limbs. Every movement now holds a memory of sun, of wind, of walking too long on flesh that wasn't made for stone. Still, you rise because they rise, and to lie still while the caravan moves forward would be to vanish slowly, like footprints in the dunes. You adjust your turban. The cloth still smells faintly of ash and skin. It holds the scent of the journey, and perhaps, more quietly, the weight of tears you have not yet allowed to fall. Tears do not come easily in this place, not because they are forbidden, but because the desert takes so much water. One learns to hold grief in other ways, in silence, in breath. In salt, you watch one of the older men. He limps slightly, favoring a leg that must have once known war, or loss, or perhaps simply too many steps. He says nothing of it. When asked, he only shrugs and says, "The desert makes us walk more slowly. That way, it can whisper louder." The younger men carry small knives tucked into their belts, not for defense, but for ceremony, to cut dates, to trim rope, to mark wood. Simple things. But you notice one man rubs his knife's hilt like a worry stone, over and over, his thumb finding the same smooth spot, like an old prayer. You wonder what grief that blade has heard, not caused, but held. Pain here is not theatrical. It is quiet, personal, a knot in the stomach, a sore under the heel, a memory tucked into the corner of a folded turban. And yet, they care for one another in gentle ways. A man notices your limp. You hadn't realized you were limping. And he stops, says nothing, just reaches into his satchel, pulls out a pouch of dried leaves and a strip of cloth. He binds your foot like he's done it 100 times. His fingers steady, his breath slow. When he's done, he taps your shoulder, moves on. No praise, no lecture, just care. Later, you catch the scent of mint and dust. A tea is brewing over a coal fire, the pot blackened from many journeys. The elder stirring it dips a finger, tastes, then adds more leaves. He glances at you, his eyes soft beneath the blue wrap. "This is not for thirst," he says. "This is for remembering." You drink it. It's bitter. It burns a little, but it opens something in your chest, like wind through a closed tent. like a door swinging slowly on rusted hinges. You find a quiet moment near the dunes, away from the sound of hooves and bells. You crouch low, not from pain, but from reverence. And finally, a single tear rolls down your cheek. Slow, warm, unexpected. You catch it in your palm. Look at it. Salted. Sacred. You press your fingers to the sand. Leave a mark that will vanish in moments. But for now, it is there. Witnessed. That evening, a boy begins to sing beside the fire. His voice is unsure at first. Thin. But the melody is old. It finds its shape. Others join in. Low, soft, echoing like the hum of earth beneath your feet. You don't know the words, but you hum. And in the sound, you feel your ache lessen. Not because it is gone, but because it is heard. Across from you, a man unwraps his turban, letting the night air kiss his face. His eyes are red, his cheeks weathered by wind and time. But he smiles, not with joy, with peace. He catches your gaze, and without a word, he lifts a small stone from his pouch, places it in your hand. Cool, smooth, heavy for its size. To carry when you need to weep, he says, but have no water to spare. You hold it close, and that night, you sleep more deeply than you have in days. Wrapped not just in cloth, but in the soft, invisible thread that binds all those who walk the salt road, those who endure, those who remember, those who weep where no one sees, and rise with the sun, ready once more to walk. The desert has many voices, but none louder than the one that says nothing. And nowhere does it speak more clearly than in the dunes. They rise like ocean swells, smooth, endless, and soft-edged, their curves drawn with the patience of centuries, their silence not empty, but full of remembering, full of breath. This morning, you walk alone for a while. Not far. The caravan is still within sight. A ribbon winding ahead and behind. But enough distance has gathered for the quiet to stretch. The wind moves gently, filling the air with the hush of moving grains. Tiny particles lifted and dropped, lifted and dropped, over and over, like prayer beads whispered through the fingers of the sky. You look at the ground. There are no permanent tracks. Even your own footprints are already beginning to fade. Smooth, softened, as if the desert is brushing you away. Not cruelly, but gently. Nothing stays, the sand seems to say. Everything changes shape. And it's true. Even the dunes are different today. The one you climbed yesterday is lower now, its crest shifted slightly east. Another stands taller, casting a longer shadow, its ridge edged with wind-written patterns. You place your hand on the side of a dune. It gives. Not much. Just enough to remind you. This is not stone. This is time. Soft, patient, relentless. You wonder how many footsteps it has swallowed, how many bones rest beneath its surface, how many stories lie beneath the grains. The caravan does not fear these dunes. It trusts them, follows their rhythms, walks not in straight lines, but in waves, flowing up, sliding down, moving with the breath of the land. You walk beside a man who hums as he climbs. His feet find balance without thought. His body leans just enough. You follow him, letting your steps match his. And in that rhythm, you feel a kind of peace. He tells you softly that some dunes sing. You must be still, he says. Still and open. That night, he leads you away from camp, just a little, to a place where the sand is dry, fine as flour. The stars above are fierce in their beauty. The moon has not risen yet. He sits. You do too. He runs his hand across the surface of the dune. Not digging, just brushing, over and over. And then, a sound, low dot melodic, a hum deep within the sand, as if the earth itself is speaking from its belly. You close your eyes. You listen. The sound rises and falls, tied to the movement of his hand. Not music exactly, more like breath, like a memory too old for language. You try. Your fingers sweep the grains. Nothing. He smiles. Not with effort, he says. With listening. You try again. Slower. And there it is, a whisper. Barely there, but real. A dune that breathes. A dune that sings. You return to camp with sand on your fingers, salt in your throat, and something new inside you, a silence that feels full. Later, as the camels shift and settle, you think of how the dunes always return, even after wind, even after storm. They rise again. Different, yet familiar. Changed, yet whole. You wonder if that is what you are becoming. Not the same. Not broken. Just reshaped. Softened by journey. Smoothed by silence. Formed anew by breath. In the dunes that breathe, you are not lost. You are being remade. Not all at once, but grain by grain. Step by step. Dream by dream. Night comes not suddenly, but with softness, like the closing of great eyelids over the world. The light fades in long strokes. First gold, then rose, then deep. Breathing blue. The sun, still warm in your skin, bows out behind the dunes. Its fire traded for something quieter, colder, more ancient. The heat vanishes quickly. The air cools with every breath. Your sweat dries. Your muscles tighten. You draw your cloak around your shoulders and look up. The stars are already there. They do not arrive. They return, as if they had been waiting just beyond the veil of day, watching. They come in clusters, in rivers, in stories. The elders of the caravan point them out, not with fingers, but with nods, with murmured names in a language older than borders. That is Tenere's spine, one says. It points toward home. That one, another says, is the salt bearer. He walks across the sky just as we do the land. They speak of stars not as objects, but as companions, guides, messengers from ancestors. You listen, wrapped in a blanket that smells of smoke and wool. You feel small, but not lost. More like part of a story being told by the sky. The fire crackles. Camels grunt in their sleep. The men sit close, shoulders touching. No one hurries conversation. Words come slowly here, like water drawn from a deep well. Someone begins to chant. Low sound, spoken more than sung. Words drift into the air like incense, like the curl of smoke from burning resin. You do not know the language, but you understand. The chant is for protection, for guidance, for the spirits that travel by night, the ones you do not see, but feel. In the desert, the unseen is not doubted. It is honored. You think of the mirages, the dunes that sing, the whispers you thought were wind. Perhaps they were more. Perhaps the desert is full of watchers, you ask one of the men quietly. Do you believe there are spirits here? He looks at you, nods once, then points to his chest. They live here, he says, where the wind goes when it rests. Later, as the fire burns low, one man stands apart. He holds a small bowl, lights dried herbs within it. Thin, fragrant smoke begins to rise. He circles the camp, not speaking, just moving, letting the smoke touch each pack, each camel, each sleeper. When he returns to the fire, he places a handful of salt into the flames. The crystals crackle, pop, send sparks into the air. No one claps. No one cheers. But there is a stillness afterward. That feels like a held breath. You lie down on your mat. The stars shimmer above, more than you can count, closer than you imagined. You see patterns now, not just constellations, but stories, eyes, steps, spirals. You think of those who walked this path before you, centuries ago, those who watched these same stars, sang these same chants, breathed this same air. You are not alone. The spirits walk beside you, not as shadows, not as ghosts, but as echoes of feet in sand, of songs in wind, of salt in firelight. The night deepens. The air grows colder, sharper, and sleep comes, not as escape, but as communion. You do not dream of cities or water or comforts left behind. You dream of light, of sand, of voices you have never heard, but somehow recognize. You are part of the desert now, watched, held, guided. You sleep beneath starlight, and you are not afraid. It begins as a murmur, not with voices, but with the air. Even the desert seems to know. The wind flows with a different tone. The sun rises with a gentler hand, and the camels move more easily beneath their burdens, as though the ground itself is lighter. You feel it in your bones, the subtle pull, the shift in weight that means you are nearing something, not a finish, but a crossing, the faint outline of a new threshold on the edge of the unseen. Timbuktu. The name has lived on your tongue for days now. It has been shaped in your breath, cradled in the lilt of foreign songs, carried in the rhythm of footsteps. But today it begins to feel close, almost tangible, not a legend floating above the dunes, but a presence just beyond the bend in the horizon. The men say little, but their silence has changed. It hums. You sense the stories stirring in them, pressed like dried flowers between the pages of memory. The ones they have told again and again, to their sons, to strangers, to firelight, of a city where the sands touch stone, and the stone answers with books, of scholars who speak 7 languages and pray in the voice of stars, of traders who walk barefoot through the alleys, whispering to one another as they pass bolts of cloth and bowls of copper, of scrolls wrapped in leather, filled with knowledge that once moved with caravans like this one, crossing seas of sand to find homes in open palms. You imagine it now. You do not try to resist. The dream of the place is soft and strong, like the scent of smoke on your shawl. You picture low, earthen walls rising from the ground, mud brick kissed by sun, until it gleams like honey. You see domes and rooftops tucked into one another, like notes folded carefully in a pocket. A child runs barefoot down a stone path, laughing. A call to prayer curls above him like a bird on wind. Men gather beneath a tree, passing cups of tea so sweet they hurt the teeth. And in the shadow of an old mosque, a woman with henna'd fingers turns the page of a centuries-old text, its words still sharp, still breathing. You ask a man beside you, "What is Timbuktu like?" He smiles slowly, his eyes distant. "It depends on what you need," he says. To some, it is a market. To others, a library. To others still, a place to forget what the desert made them remember. You ponder this as you walk. The earth beneath your feet is flatter now, the dunes softening into a low, rolling hush. Tufts of grass appear, a lone tree, the smell of something green. And then the breeze changes. It touches your face differently, carrying moisture, a faint sweetness. You do not see the river yet, but you know. The Niger is near. A man closes his eyes, whispers a single word. Alhamdulillah. Praise be. His voice is not loud. It does not need to be. You pass an old marker, a stone half buried, etched with a symbol worn nearly smooth. The elder at the front touches it with 2 fingers, bows his head for a breath, then moves on. There is no urgency now, no need to rush. Approach is its own form of worship. That night, the stars feel closer than ever. The air is cool, but not cold. A peace settles over the camp like fine cloth. The men sing a little, softly, old songs that ripple with gratitude, that remember those who walked before, that thank the camels, the wind, the salt, and the silence. You lie on your mat, salt dust still clinging to your robe. Your body aches in ways you have learned to accept. Your eyes close not in exhaustion, but in stillness. And just before sleep takes you, you think you hear it. The whisper of the city, a rustle of cloth, the clang of a market bell, the scratch of a pen on ancient parchment. Or perhaps it is only your heart, singing in anticipation, soft as the wind, certain as the stars. You are near. The road that was once endless has curved, not toward a finish, but toward a beginning you hadn't expected. Timbuktu is no longer just ahead. It is around you, inside you. But the body still remembers. Today, each step feels heavier, though the terrain is softer. Each breath comes slower, though the air is cooler. The salt remains upon the camels, steady in its bindings. But somehow, it feels denser now, not from the mass of the blocks, but from what they have come to mean. They are no longer just trade. They are no longer just mineral. They are memory. They are hardship turned holy. They are testimony. You watch a camel pause, its eyes half-lidded, its sides expanding and collapsing with deep, slow breath. A man touches its flank, not to urge it forward, but in thanks. You pass a narrow cleft between two worn rocks. A traveler stops there, reaches into his satchel, and removes a small pouch. He pours a few grains of sand into the cleft, closes his eyes, whispers something, too low to hear. You do not ask, but you understand. We all leave part of ourselves behind, in places that change us. There are fewer words spoken now, not from fatigue, but from reverence.